in the population in that period, okay? But for men, as you can see, the incidence of incarceration is much higher. And for young men without a high school education, it's especially high. So these are white men. You can see what the numbers are telling you there. Although the overall population rate is 750, in 2008, the rate for young men, white men, is 1750, much higher. And then for those without an education, higher by a factor. Incarceration is largely concentrated amongst the poorly educated. It's also largely concentrated amongst the racial minorities. So here are those data for black men. And what that right-hand bar there is telling you is that amongst young African-American men who do not complete high school, about 3/8, that's 37,000 per 100,000, okay, that's 0.37. About 3 out of 8 are under lock and key on a given day in 2008. All right. That's discriminatory, that's racism, right? That's a natural reaction to seeing such facts. I mean, you know, how could it be plainer than that? To which there is an answer. You do the crime, you do the time. Okay? As the conservative, esteemed political scientist James Q. Wilson once said to me, I can't help it if blacks are overrepresented amongst the people who are breaking the laws. I regret that, but a natural consequence of that fact is that they're going to be overrepresented amongst the people who are locked up. Right? Right? Well, no. I mean, that can't be the end of the story. Is there any discrimination in the way the police allocate their resources to looking for criminals? Is there any discrimination in the way the sentences are formulated? Might not some of the law-breaking that you're talking about be an indirect consequence of other things that are going on in the society, including the punishment policy itself? Okay? Blowback. The typical duration of a stay in prison is between 2 and 3 years. Okay? So of that 37.15% of poorly educated young African-American men who are going to prison, who are in prison on a given day, there's a churning thing that's going on. Those people are only in there for 2 or 3 years. They go in, they come back. They go in, they come back. They go in, they come back. The cumulative lifetime risk, what's happening? Okay. Cumulative lifetime risk, this is Bruce Western, sociologist at Harvard University's estimates of the chance that someone before reaching the age of 35 will have spent at least 1 year in a prison somewhere for a felony offense. Okay, so it's a cumulative lifetime risk, because after 35, if you haven't been to prison yet, the odds that you go are very low. But in 1979, amongst black high school dropouts, that number was 14.7%. So this is a cohort-specific thing, right? In 1979, the people who would have been turning 30 to 35 years old were old geezers like me, born in the years just after the Second World War. Okay? So that was then. Okay? But what about people who were born, you know, within the last 20 years or so? I mean, what about people who have been turning 30 to 35 years old much more recently? By 2009, this is Bruce's estimates of the cumulative lifetime risk of incarceration. That's a much bigger number. You can see there for the dropouts, it's 69%. He's claiming, I mean, if you can believe it, one might want to check numbers like this because they're so extraordinary. He's claiming that the odds are nearly 0.7 that at some point before reaching the age of 35, for a young black man who's born in this cohort, reaching 35 in 2010 would make you born in 1975. Born in the late 1970s, they've got a 2/3 chance of having spent time in prison. 2 and 3 of them will have spent time in prison before reaching the age of 35. Amongst the black men who drop out of school, twice as many will have gone to jail as will have never gone to jail for a year or more for a felony offense. Amongst the African Americans, the teeming hundreds of thousands of them, okay, in the urban concentrated population centers all over this country. All right, the normative experience for poor urban high school dropout black males is prison. 2 out of 3 go. The uncle, the brother, the father, the son. Every family has somebody in prison. Every neighborhood has kids in prison. They don't stay there. They come back. And therefore, I'm talking about how prison could promote crime. I'm talking about how the racial disparity in offending doesn't end up justifying the racial disparity in punishment, may indeed be, in a way, a reflection of the fact of the racial disparity in punishment. What are these communities like when they are constantly inundated with people who have had to negotiate the harrowing dangers of survival inside of a total institution, which is a prison? Do you have any idea what a prison is? Okay? I'm talking about the racially organized gangs, the Mexicans, the white skinheads, the black various versions of the different black gangs in the California prisons. Do you think that the men inside prison don't have sex? The men inside prison have sex. I'm here to tell you that sex is taking place inside of prisons all over this country. Sometimes it's consensual, sometimes it's not. Okay? Do you know how you have to carry yourself in the joint in order to keep somebody from fucking with you? Let's just pretend we were on HBO, okay? Do you know what you have to do to get them off of you? You stay in the gym, and if anybody messes with you, you go upside their head and you're prepared to fight to the death. And that's the attitude that you carry with you when you get back on the street. And that attitude becomes normative. It becomes a good thing. It becomes something that that kid who's 10 or 12 or 14 years old coming up wants to be. And then, having put that kid of 10 or 12 or 14 years old in one of these hopeless urban barren landscapes, and having surrounded him with people who have had to survive inside these institutions, when that kid then acts a fool, we come down on him with a ton of bricks and feel justified in doing so. We've created the very conditions that breed this deviant behavior. And then in our faux righteousness, we respond with a scale of institutionalized violence unmatched in human history. There are more people in prison in the United States today than have ever been imprisoned anywhere. Okay? We have 5% of the world's population and 1 out of every 4 inmates. We are one of the very few countries who incarcerate for life without the possibility of parole, people who commit their offenses before the age of 18. There are countries that will not extradite proven murderers to the United States because they don't want to see us execute those people, because they believe that that is inconsistent with human rights. We are a vast outlier within the global community in terms of the understanding of human rights. This is legal, this is politically popular, this is funded in the hundreds of billions of dollars a year, okay? And it's everywhere you look in America.